You learn a lot when you train in the ATS, for all eventualities, but not, as I found out last night, for cows. I was out practicing night target practice in the radar cabin in a field, but I found I could not move the bearing wheel and the cabin wouldn't revolve. Eventually, I had to carefully step outside to search for the reason. A large body was leaning against the side of the cabin, and a deep voice intoned, "Moo." The cow was most reluctant to move, and I had to call the rest of the team to help me shoo her out of the way. If you told me at the beginning of the war that I would be out in a field in the middle of the night with a cow, never mind training how to use a radar system in case we're ever allowed to use them for real, I would have laughed at you. But here I am. Last year my life changed beyond all recognition. Up until the war broke out, I'd been a housewife, you see, cooking, cleaning, sewing, and so on. But when war broke out, I decided I was going to do my bit. It's all voluntary, for the moment anyway. So I started looking at various jobs and the uniforms that I could choose from. There's the Women's Auxiliary Air Force in their rather smart Air Force blue, or the Women's Royal Naval Service, the Wrens, with their rather lovely tricorn hat. But then I saw an advert for the Auxiliary Territorial Service for Women. Non-combatant duties with military units, motor driving, clerical and other services calling for energy and initiative. And the uniform is perfect. Khaki green, just like my husband's, and a job I can really get my teeth into. Most of us have joined up so we can free up the men from their day-to-day tasks so they can go and join the war effort. It doesn't matter that we get paid 2/3 of what the men get, or even that we get smaller rations. We're just happy to be doing our bit. Now, the ATS replaced the WAC of the First World War and incorporated part of the First Aid Nursing Yeomanry, who had been the highest decorated auxiliary unit of the Great War. So we have big shoes to fill. The ATS was established in September 1938, when war seemed possible again. In fact, it was at that time that Fort Nelson, where I am posted, was brought back into military use after being closed down in 1919. They turned the Victorian fort into an anti-aircraft ammunition depot with no less than 10 ammunition sheds lined up across a parade ground. They house ammunition for the 3.7-inch and 5.25-inch anti-aircraft guns. And the 3 Victorian, and rather spooky, if you ask me, tunnels, which weave their way underneath the parade grounds, are used to store 40mm Beaufort ammunition. I hate going down there. It's like a dark underground maze. It's so easy to lose your bearings and get lost, and I really do find it very creepy. But never mind that. Look at me, knowing all about my guns and ammunition, eh? Didn't know a thing about that before war broke out. But when you join the ATS, you learn about all sorts of things you never dreamed of before war broke out, like how to sleep in a barrack block or share a room with 20 other women. That first week of training, we were given vaccines and our uniforms. The stores had run out of suspender belts that month, so those of us who arrived without one were given a length of elastic and told to make garters to hold up our khaki lisle stockings. Those blooming stockings, they refused to stay up no matter what I did to them. We put our name and number on everything we owned. We were taught how to make our beds, how to clean our barracks, how to polish our shoes and buttons, how to starch our collar and press our skirts. And then they taught us how to march. For hours each day, we drilled on the barrack square. We learned to form threes with an equal distance between each person, to come to attention, to stand at ease, to march in step, and to turn as one, to the right or left or on command. One morning, we were drilling under the command of the regimental sergeant major, a man who instilled fear in all of us, when, to my abject horror, my stocking began to slide down my leg. There was no way I could reach down and pull it up. I just had to keep marching, and the stocking continued its downward glide until it wound itself around my ankle and beneath my shoe. The RSM noticed. He called the squad to a halt, then to stand at ease. He then yelled, "Will that blimmin' soldier pull her socks up and let us get on with it?" Nobody dared laugh, but there were lots of quivering shoulders as I pulled my stocking up and adjusted the garter. Our male counterparts, who were standing watching the display, whistled and catcalled, much to my embarrassment. We also had lectures on army law and discipline and hygiene. I did my best not to fall asleep, but the hours of marching and physical education wore me out. We were told we must bathe or shower and shampoo our hair once a week, and we had to sign a book to prove we really had. Eventually, I was selected for training as a driver. All those who were interested had to gather in the gymnasium, and then we were told to run around as fast as we could. It was great fun. The few who were selected, including me, had been those who had avoided any collisions with other recruits. During the 10 weeks training, we had to pass 5 tests, including night driving plus highway code and vehicle maintenance tests. Quite a few girls failed the course and were ousted, but failure never entered my head. I would get through. I was determined. We drove all sorts of vehicles, up to a weight of 3 tons loaded, rarely the same make or type of vehicle 2 days running. For example, jeeps, followed, say, the next day by the Bedford QL troop carrier, or perhaps a 3-ton left-hand drive American Studebaker. We drove armoured cars, guided by a lookout, half-tracks and even ducks and small Morris miners. And now I'm based on the south coast, driving trucks at the ammunition store at Fort Nelson. It's a heck of a job, not only because of the vehicles, but because of the blinking one-way system they have in place. Woe betide if you get something wrong and go the wrong way. One must come in through the upper west gate, which was built specially for that purpose, load and unload your wares, and then leave via the upper east gate over the bridge and out. There are only 3 vehicles allowed to wait on site at any given time. The rest of them have to wait across the road and stay hidden, so as not to attract attention from them. The Luftwaffe. Perhaps you're wondering where Fort Nelson gets its ammunition from. Well, it comes from the Royal Filling Factories or the Royal Ordnance Factory at Bramley near Basingstoke. Imagine, I could have been working at one of those shell filling factories like I did in the Great War. That's another story. The Fort Ammunition Store is absolutely huge, enough for 58 gun sites between Portsmouth and Southampton. And in 1940, the summer of 1940, we needed those guns for the first time, when the Germans began a series of attacks known as the Blitz, the aerial bombing of the cities of Britain. The skies above Portsmouth are now filled with barrage balloons, searchlights and anti-aircraft artillery. You see, Portsmouth is a primary target because of the fact it is a port, as well as there being a naval base, military installations and factories. And on the 24th of August, they came. 200 German bombers flew over the city. They hit the dockyards and surrounding areas, killing 125 people and injuring 300 more. They also hit the Prince's Theatre in Lake Road whilst a matinee performance was taking place. There was no air raid warning given, you see. 8 children lost their lives, with many more injured. The war has been brought to our doorstep. And after that, I don't think the Germans will leave us alone. 2 days later, and they are back. The Hilsea gasworks took a direct hit. We can thank cloudy weather over the channel and the quick thinking of the RAF squadrons who managed to intercept the German bombers and their escorting fighters for comparatively low damage. But of course we can expect more of the same, what with Portsmouth being such a significant naval base. It's just horrifying. Never before has war come so close to me and mine. I have vowed that I will do anything to protect my country. Do you know, I've heard they might be turning Monument Farm right next to Fort Nelson into an ACAC station soon. I'm hoping I can transfer there. That's why I started my radar training, see? I can help stop those air attacks. I can protect my country and find another way to do my bit.